I said he sexualizes me too much. Now he hasn't initiated anything for 6 months and I'm the bad guy? Look, I'm going to be real with you about what happened between me and my husband because, honestly, I'm still trying to figure out how everything went so wrong. I'm Kendra, I'm 28, and 6 months ago, I thought I had the perfect marriage. Now, I'm sitting here wondering if I'm about to lose everything, and somehow I'm being painted as the bad guy in all this. When Austin and I first got together, I swear I felt like the luckiest woman alive. This man was obsessed with me in the best way possible. Every single day, he'd tell me how beautiful I looked, how lucky he was to have me, how he couldn't believe I was his. And the way he touched me, girl, it was everything. He'd smack my butt when I walked past him in the kitchen, pull me close for random hugs throughout the day, kiss my neck when I was doing dishes. Even just casual touches would get him worked up, like visibly worked up, if you know what I mean. At first, I ate that attention up. My friends would roll their eyes when I'd brag about how Austin couldn't keep his hands off me, even after 3 years together. Sarah would be like, must be nice to have a man who still acts like he's dating you. And honestly, I felt pretty smug about it. Here I was with this amazing guy who was still head over heels for me, while her husband barely looked up from his phone when she walked in the room. But then life started getting crazy stressful. Work was a nightmare with all these new demands and deadlines, my mom was going through health issues, and I was just exhausted all the time. That's when Austin's constant physical attention started feeling less like love and more like pressure. Every hug turning into him getting excited, every kiss leading to him getting aroused. It was like he couldn't just touch me normally without it becoming this whole sexual thing. I started noticing it more and more. We'd be watching TV and he'd pull me close, and within minutes, I could feel him getting turned on just from having me against him. Or I'd give him a quick peck goodbye in the morning, and he'd try to deepen it, getting all worked up before I had to leave for work. It was like my body was some kind of trigger for him, and honestly, it started making me feel weird about it. The thing is, Austin never pushed me for anything. He'd get excited, but he never made it my problem to deal with, you know? He'd just kind of adjust himself and move on. But I started feeling like I couldn't just be affectionate without it turning into this sexual thing for him. Like, could he not just hug his wife without his body reacting like that? My friends started getting on my nerves too, always asking how things were going with Mr. Perfect and making jokes about how Austin was probably climbing the walls if I wasn't in the mood. They had no idea how annoying it was becoming to feel like every touch was loaded with sexual energy. I just wanted normal affection sometimes, not everything to be about desire. Looking back now, I can see I was building up resentment about something that should have made me feel loved. But at the time, especially when I was already stressed about everything else, it felt overwhelming. I started pulling back a little, not reciprocating the touches as much, trying to create some space. But Austin didn't seem to notice my signals. He kept being the same affectionate, physically responsive husband he'd always been. I convinced myself that he should be able to read my mood better, should know when I needed just comfort and not sexual energy. But I never actually told him that, I just expected him to figure it out somehow. And when he didn't, I got more and more frustrated. The stage was set for everything to blow up, and I had no idea how bad it was about to get. So there I was, already wound up tight from weeks of feeling like Austin couldn't touch me without getting turned on, when everything finally exploded. It was a Tuesday night, and I'd had the worst day at work. Everything that could go wrong did, and I came home just wanting to decompress and maybe watch some mindless TV with my husband. Austin could tell I was stressed the second I walked in. He's always been good at reading my moods, which usually I love about him. He made me dinner, didn't ask too many questions about my day, just let me vent a little while we ate. After dinner, I was sitting on the couch still feeling tense, and he came over and started gently massaging my shoulders. It felt good at first, really good, his hands working out the knots in my neck and shoulders, and I was finally starting to relax. But then he leaned down and started kissing my neck softly, his hands moving to caress my arms. Within maybe 2 minutes, I could feel him pressed against the back of the couch, and yeah, he was getting aroused again. Something inside me just snapped. All that built-up frustration and irritation came pouring out, and I whipped around and said, "You always sexualize me, and it's disgusting." The words came out harsher than I even meant them to, but I was so fed up with feeling like I couldn't get comfort from my own husband without it turning sexual. Austin stepped back like I'd slapped him. His face went completely blank, and for a second, neither of us said anything. Then he quietly said, "I can't help that I'm attracted to my wife. I'm a young, healthy man, Kendra. This is normal." But I was already too worked up to listen to reason. "Just stop," I told him. "It's irritating. I can't even get a normal hug from you without you getting all worked up. It's like you can't touch me without making it about sex." Austin looked hurt in a way I'd never seen before. "I don't make it about sex," he said quietly. "I just can't control how my body reacts to being close to you. I've never pressured you or made it your problem to deal with." And he was right, he never had. But I was too defensive and too frustrated to admit that. Instead, I doubled down. "Well, figure it out," I said. "It's gross, and I'm tired of it." Austin just stared at me for a long moment, and I could see something changing in his expression, not anger, exactly, but like he was processing something painful. "Okay," he said finally. "I understand." Then he went to bed without another word. I sat on that couch feeling justified but also kind of sick to my stomach. Deep down, I knew I'd been cruel. Austin had been showing me love and desire in the only way he knew how, and I'd called it disgusting. But I was too proud to go apologize, and honestly, part of me felt relieved that maybe now he'd back off a little. I had no idea I just set off a chain reaction that would destroy everything good in our marriage. Austin wasn't the type to fight or argue back. He just took what I said and decided to protect himself the only way he knew how, and that protection was going to hurt me more than I ever imagined. That night, he didn't try to cuddle me in bed like he usually did. He stayed on his side, and when I woke up in the morning, he was already up and getting ready for work. No good morning kiss, no lingering hug before he left, just a polite have a good day, and he was gone. I told myself it was temporary, that he was just processing what I'd said. But looking back, that was the moment everything changed between us. I'd rejected the core of how he showed love, and Austin, being the man he was, decided to respect my wishes in the most literal way possible. The change was immediate and absolute. Austin went from being the most physically affectionate husband I knew to barely touching me at all. No more random hugs throughout the day, no more playful butt slaps in the kitchen, no more pulling me close on the couch while we watched TV. He'd give me a quick peck goodbye in the morning if I initiated it, but there was no lingering, no deepening of the kiss, nothing that might lead to him getting aroused and disgusting me. At first, I felt relieved. Finally, I could just exist in my own house without feeling like every interaction was charged with sexual tension. I could hug my husband without him getting turned on, could cuddle on the couch without his body responding. It's exactly what I thought I wanted. But by the end of the first week, something felt off. I was doing dishes one evening, and Austin walked past me to get something from the fridge. Normally, he would have squeezed my waist or smacked my butt or at least said something flirty. Instead, he just said excuse me and went about his business. It felt so formal, like we were roommates instead of married. When I tried to bring it up, asking why he'd stopped being affectionate, Austin's explanation was so logical it made me want to scream. You said my physical responses were disgusting, he said calmly. I don't want to risk getting aroused and making you uncomfortable again. I argued back that it was impossible for him to show me affection without getting excited, trying to point out how ridiculous he was being. But Austin just shrugged and said, it happens naturally when I'm close to you. Since I can't control it, the only solution is to avoid situations where it might happen. The worst part was how reasonable he sounded, like he'd thought this through and decided this was the most logical way to handle my complaint. But it wasn't what I wanted at all. I wanted him to find a way to be affectionate without the sexual response, not to just stop being affectionate altogether. So you're just going to punish me forever because I asked you to tone it down? I asked him one night after he politely declined to cuddle while we watched a movie. I'm not punishing you, he said, not even looking at me. I'm respecting your boundaries. You made it clear that my physical responses make you uncomfortable, so I'm making sure that doesn't happen anymore. I could hear the hurt in his voice even though he was trying to sound neutral, and that's when it hit me that maybe I'd gone too far. But instead of apologizing, I got defensive. Why should I have to apologize for asking my husband to control himself? Why was I the bad guy for not wanting to feel sexualized every time he touched me? But the thing is, I was starting to miss feeling desired. I missed the way Austin used to look at me like I was the most beautiful woman in the world. I missed feeling wanted and attractive and irresistible to my own husband. Now, he looked at me the same way he looked at anyone else, polite, respectful, but without that special spark that used to make me feel so special. I started trying to initiate more, hoping to spark some of that old passion. But Austin would respond just enough to not reject me completely, then pull back before things could get too heated. It was like he was keeping himself on a tight leash, and I hated it. 3 months in, I was feeling more unwanted than ever before in our marriage. I'd get dressed up hoping Austin would compliment me, but he'd just say I looked nice in the same tone he'd used to comment on the weather. I'd try to be flirty or suggestive, but he'd just smile politely and change the subject. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd complained about feeling sexualized, and now I felt completely desexualized. Austin was treating me exactly like I'd asked him to, like someone he could touch without any sexual response, and it was making me miserable. By month 4, I was going crazy. Austin had turned into this polite, distant version of himself, and I was starting to panic that I'd permanently broken something between us. He still did nice things for me, still helped around the house, still asked about my day, but it all felt so surface level, like he was going through the motions of being a good husband without any of the passion or desire that used to drive those actions. I tried everything to get a reaction out of him. I'd wear his favorite outfits, cook his favorite meals, suggest watching movies I knew he liked. But Austin had apparently mastered the art of appreciating me without getting aroused by me, and it was driving me insane. How was this the same man who used to get turned on just from seeing me in his t-shirt? The worst part was how calm he was about everything. When I'd get frustrated and ask why he was being so distant, he'd explain in that same reasonable tone that he was just being respectful. When I'd point out that we barely had any physical intimacy anymore, he'd remind me that I'd called his natural responses disgusting, so he was trying to avoid that. But I didn't mean you should just shut down completely. I finally exploded one night after he'd politely declined to take a shower with me, something that used to be a regular fun thing for us. Austin looked at me with these tired eyes and said, I don't know how to want you the way I used to without my body responding the way it always has. You can't ask me to desire you but not show that desire, so I chose not to put either of us in that position. I wanted to shake him. This wasn't what I'd asked for. I'd wanted him to control his physical responses, not eliminate them entirely by shutting down his desire for me. But every time I tried to explain that, he'd point out that he literally couldn't control those responses. That's how male bodies work. Around month 5, Austin had to go on a work trip for 6 days. Normally, I would have missed him like crazy, and he would have called me every night, wanting to talk for hours. This time, our conversations were brief and polite. He'd ask about my day, tell me a little about his meetings, and then we'd say good night. No flirting, no I miss you, no talking about how much he was looking forward to coming home to me. When he got back, something was different, not just the same distant politeness he'd been showing me for months, but something else. He seemed more thoughtful, more settled in some way, like he'd figured something out while he was away. I tried to welcome him home the way I used to, with hugs and kisses and excitement about having him back. But Austin responded the same way he'd been responding to everything, politely, briefly, without any real enthusiasm. It was like hugging a stranger who was trying to be nice to me. That's when the real panic set in. I'd been telling myself that this was temporary, that eventually Austin would get over his hurt feelings and things would go back to normal. But looking at him after that trip, I realized this might be who he was now, this polite, distant man who treated me like a roommate he was fond of but not passionate about. I started wondering what had happened on his trip. Had he met someone? Had he finally realized he was happier without all the drama I'd been putting him through? The thought of Austin moving on from me, finding someone who appreciated his desire instead of calling it disgusting, made me sick to my stomach. But instead of apologizing or trying to fix what I'd broken, I got angry. This was his fault for being so extreme about everything. Normal people would have found a middle ground, not just shut down completely. He was punishing me, and now he was probably thinking about other women who wouldn't call his attraction disgusting. I had no idea how right I was about that last part, and how much worse things were about to get. 2 days after Austin came back from his business trip, my world completely fell apart. We were having dinner, one of those polite, surface-level conversations we'd been having for months, when Austin suddenly put down his fork and looked at me with his serious expression. "Kendra," he said, "I don't think we're sexually compatible anymore. Maybe we should consider separating." I literally choked on my food. What? I managed to get out once I stopped coughing. Where is this coming from? Austin was quiet for a moment, like he was choosing his words carefully. Our intimacy dropped to almost nothing after you told me my attraction to you was disgusting. I've been thinking about it a lot, especially while I was away, and I don't think this is sustainable for either of us. But that's not what I meant, I said, panic rising in my chest. I just wanted you to tone it down a little, not stop completely. I can't tone down something I can't control, Austin replied. And I can't live in a marriage where my wife finds my desire for her disgusting. It's not fair to either of us. That's when he dropped the real bomb. He told me about his business trip, about how one evening after a work dinner, some of the colleagues had gone to a bar. There was this younger woman there, maybe mid-20s, who had started flirting with him. Nothing inappropriate happened, he was clear about that, but the attention had made him realize something. "I haven't felt wanted in months," he said quietly. "This stranger showed more appreciation for me in one conversation than you have since you called me disgusting. And that's when I realized how unhappy I've become." I felt like I was going to throw up. "So you want to leave me for some random girl at a bar?" "No," Austin said firmly. "I want to leave because I deserve to be with someone who doesn't find my attraction to them revolting, someone who appreciates being desired instead of calling it gross." I started crying then, ugly, desperate tears. "I never said you were revolting. I was just stressed and overwhelmed. You're blowing this way out of proportion." But Austin wasn't buying it anymore. "You said it was disgusting, Kendra. You said it was irritating and gross. Do you have any idea what that did to me? I spent 3 years thinking I was lucky to have a wife I was so attracted to, and you made me feel like a pervert for wanting my own wife." "That's not what I meant," I kept saying, but even as the words came out, I knew how weak they sounded. I had said those things. I had called his desire disgusting. Austin continued, "And it's not just that one moment. You never compliment me, never initiate anything, never make me feel like you want me at all. I'm always the one pursuing, always the one showing desire, and you just receive it until you decided even that was too much." I tried to argue, tried to list all the ways I showed love, but Austin just shook his head. "When's the last time you told me I was attractive? When's the last time you initiated intimacy? When's the last time you made me feel like you actually wanted me and weren't just tolerating my attention?" I couldn't answer because he was right. I'd gotten so comfortable being the one who was pursued and desired that I'd never bothered to reciprocate. I'd taken his constant attention for granted and then complained when it became inconvenient for me. "So what, you're just giving up?" I asked, desperation making my voice shrill. "You were going to throw away 3 years of marriage because of one fight?" "This isn't about one fight," Austin said sadly. "This is about the fact that you don't want me the way I want you, and you resent me for wanting you at all. That's not a marriage, Kendra. That's me being grateful for scraps of affection from someone who finds my love disgusting." When I asked if he'd cheated with the woman at the bar, Austin looked at me with something like disappointment. "The fact that you immediately assumed the worst of me just proves my point," he said. "I told you about her because I believe in honesty, not because I did anything wrong. But instead of hearing that I'm unhappy, you're more concerned about whether I betrayed you." That night, Austin slept in the guest room, and for the first time, I realized I might actually lose him, not to another woman, but to my own selfishness and inability to appreciate what I had. But even then, even facing the destruction of my marriage, part of me still thought he was overreacting, part of me still thought this was his fault for being too sensitive about one comment I'd made during a stressful time. I had no idea how much worse things were about to get or how completely I was about to lose everything I'd taken for granted. The next few weeks were a nightmare that kept getting worse. Austin wasn't just threatening to leave, he was actually doing it. He started sleeping in the guest room permanently, talking to lawyers, looking at apartments. And the worst part was how calm and determined he seemed about all of it. I tried everything to get him to reconsider. I cried, I apologized, I promised things would be different. But Austin had this look in his eyes like he was already gone, like he'd already grieved our marriage and moved on while I was still trying to fix it. "I've spent 6 months trying to be the husband you wanted," he told me when I begged him to give us another chance, someone who could show you affection without desire, who could love you without wanting you. And you know what I learned? That's not love. That's just going through the motions. I started stalking his social media like a crazy person, looking for signs of the woman from the bar or any other woman. What I found was worse than infidelity. Austin had been reconnecting with old friends, taking up hobbies I'd gradually discouraged him from, going to therapy. He was becoming this confident, happy version of himself that I barely recognized. My friends started asking questions when they noticed Austin wasn't around anymore. When I tried to explain what happened, making myself sound like the victim, I could see them exchanging glances. Sarah actually said, "Wait, you called him disgusting for being attracted to you, Kendra? That's really harsh." Even my own friends were taking his side. They remembered all my complaints about Austin being too affectionate and always getting worked up, and now they were looking at me like I was insane for destroying that. Do you know how many women would kill to have a husband who's still that attracted to them after 3 years? My friend Lisa asked. But the real punch to the gut came when I found out through mutual friends that Austin was dating someone, not the woman from the bar, someone he'd met through his therapy group, a 26-year-old teacher who apparently thought Austin was amazing and wasn't shy about showing it. I drove past the coffee shop where I heard they liked to meet, and I saw them together. Austin looked happy, really genuinely happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. He was smiling and laughing, and when she touched his arm while talking, he didn't pull away or seem uncomfortable. He leaned into it, like he was starving for that kind of affection. That's when it hit me what I'd really lost, not just a husband, but a man who had loved me completely and openly, who had made me feel like the most desirable woman in the world. I'd had someone who couldn't keep his hands off me after 3 years of marriage, and I'd thrown it away because it was occasionally inconvenient. I tried to reach out to Austin one last time, showing up at his new apartment with a long letter about how sorry I was and how much I'd learned. But Austin just looked tired when he saw me. "Kendra," he said gently, "I'm with someone now who makes me feel good about wanting her, someone who tells me I'm attractive and initiates intimacy and doesn't make me feel like a creep for being turned on by my own girlfriend. I can't go back to feeling ashamed for desiring the person I'm with. But I can change," I insisted. "I know I messed up. I can be better." Austin shook his head. "You had 6 months to change while I was begging you to work on us through my actions. Instead, you just got angry that I wasn't pursuing you anymore. Even now, you're not really sorry about what you said, you're just sorry about the consequences." And he was right. Even as I stood there crying and apologizing, part of me still thought he should have handled my criticism better, should have found a way to make me happy instead of shutting down completely. I still didn't fully understand that calling someone's love disgusting isn't something you just bounce back from. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my empty house. Austin took half the furniture when he moved out, watching his new girlfriend post pictures of them together on social media. She captions them things like "Can't believe this amazing man is mine" and "Feeling so loved and appreciated," the kinds of captions I never bothered with because I took Austin's devotion for granted. He looks incredible in every photo, confident, happy, fulfilled, like he's finally with someone who appreciates what he has to offer instead of calling it disgusting. And me? I'm alone, wondering how I managed to destroy the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too selfish and ungrateful to recognize it while I had it. But even now, part of me thinks he should have fought harder for us, part of me thinks he gave up too easily. And that's probably why I'm sitting here alone, because I still don't really get it. I still don't understand that love isn't something you can criticize and control and expect to keep receiving. Some lessons, apparently, you only learn after it's too late to matter.